Chair. I am Elenita Daño from the Philippines, from the etc. Group, Action Group on Erosion, Technology and Concentration, speaking on behalf of the civil society mechanism. We'd like to highlight 4 key or major challenges that we think should be put at the forefront on the discussion of how do we move forward in the implementation of the 2030 agenda. The first challenge that we'd like to highlight is the challenge of participation. We've heard in almost all of the speakers the importance of involving civil society and communities and all the different stakeholders. But we have reviewed the VNRs, and we've also heard the debates and the discussions in HLPF in New York. And there are clear gaps in the participation of people's movements and civil society from the local to the global context in both strategies and programming. Unfortunately, there is a sad paradox in mechanical participation projected as representative and relevant, while the breadth and depth of participation are clearly declining, and the spaces for people participation are actually shrinking. There needs to be more transparent, accountable, and meaningful and substantive participation to realize the aspiration of leaving no one behind, not just as a lip service. The second major challenges that we'd like to highlight are the systemic and structural obstacles provided by the current global economic frameworks. The importance of national focus in achieving the SDGs cannot be overemphasized, but that does not justify the absence of global policy coherence and recognition of the impacts that global policies have on national efforts to achieve food security and nutrition. Trade and investment regimes, intellectual property regimes, financial architecture, illicit financial flows, among others, that limit and increasingly shrink the policy and fiscal space of governments to advance an agenda that supports local food systems and small-scale producers. An over-reliance on trade liberalization, markets, privatization, and the global economy and in addressing the development challenges has led to the neglect of productive transition and access to resources for communities. Without producers at the center, particularly smallholder farmers who feed the world, countries will never be able to achieve food security and nutrition, which is a key backbone for all the SDGs. Emphasis needs to be given to the use and application of CFS policy outcomes as national strategy towards the 2030 agenda. The third principal challenges that we'd like to highlight are the challenge of the unacceptable level of corporate concentration. Corporate concentration that we're seeing now not only undermine the development of locally rooted food systems, but also pose serious challenge to democratic institutions. This discussion cannot ignore the fact that there is an ongoing agricultural mega mergers that have actually brought down mega corporations from 6 to 4 and soon 3, not just within the traditional mergers and acquisitions between seeds and agrochemical corporations, but increasingly including agricultural machineries, making these corporations fewer, bigger, and more influential at the cost of farmers' rights, consumers' rights, and democracy. In this regard, partnerships that we have been discussing in this panel need to be approached more critically. Private sectors are not neutral, and there are inherent conflicts and challenges involved in these partnerships that need to be acknowledged and addressed by governments and intergovernmental institutions. Lastly, we'd like to highlight the challenge of unbiased promotion of new technologies. We have heard across the speakers the embrace of technological solutions to deliver the SDGs, which is striking. And it's not just in the SDG 2, but across all other SDGs. Technological fixes are presented to address problems without addressing the root causes, completely ignoring lessons from recent experiences where technologies have actually aggravated inequality or aggravating environmental and social problems. Participation of people should apply to evaluation of technology's potential impacts and decisions on technology options. Sustainable development that benefits the majority must be people-based, giving importance to local production models and respect identities, traditions, ecologies, and cultures. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much.